is going on, guys? Back for another MLB Jagerbombs happy hour here. Have a solid slate. Well, really two solid slates. Have 9 games on the main slate tonight, 6 games on the turbo slate. Wish they were all kind of together. That might be an unpopular opinion, but really wish we had some of the pitching options from the early slate on the main tonight. But we've got some good contests. We've got the 111 with 100K up top tonight. Got the $5 50K up top. I really like the structure that they're going with here recently with the big GPP. So definitely looking at that tonight. We're going to go through pitching, we're going to go through hitting, and then we're going to dive into SaberSim, just like yesterday's show, where we run, some things and see what's coming out. Just kind of show you the initial part of my process that I use on SaberSim. I even use it for single entry type builds. So if you guys don't play multi-entry, don't be afraid still to use an optimizer. I think it's very important to do to not really miss anything is really what I use it for when I'm building. So before I get into the pitching for the slate, we do have a new partnership with SaberSim, with Ship It Nation. And they have agreed to give us 15% off to all of our subscribers and our listeners of the show. Both codes or both links to their subscription are down in the description of the video. The code is Jager15. Get you 15% off of a monthly subscription. You also get a free week of their site. I think they're a really good compliment to us with the content that we provide with the sheets, and then them with a little more written content. And you can be a part of both communities for a very affordable price. As opposed to what some things out there in the industry, some sites in the industry are offering. So be sure to check them out for a week at no cost to you. And, if you like them, stick around and let's get into some pitching. So we have, and we're just going to talk about the main slate today, but pitching, it's a really weird slate. We don't have anybody above 9,500. We have a lot of what ifs, a lot of question marks with some of these guys. So I'll do my best to touch on them. But first off, Michael King is at the top of pricing, going up against Pitt. Very good, or the most consistent arm on the slate for sure. The matchup with Pittsburgh is okay. He's been producing some solid strikeout outings here. I think he's definitely SP1, and maybe I'll just start highlighting some people, which I haven't got to do yet today. But I think he's definitely SP1. He rates out number 1 in our pitching model. Below him, I think it starts getting a little iffy in the top range, which may lead to me going a little more value-oriented for my SP2 tonight in single entry. Lugo is he's been good, but he gets a very tough matchup against a hot Minnesota team. Gossman has been hit or miss. He's been okay, a fine matchup for him as well. He, has been pretty solid other than the Yankees matchup that he had on the road a couple starts ago. He's been hit or miss with his strikeout stuff. So not really enthused to pay $9K for him. Joe Boyle, we just got news that he's going to start for Oakland against the Mets, and I don't have any interest in that at $9K. Eduardo Rodriguez for Arizona gets one of the 2 nut matchups in the league with Colorado. The other one being the White Sox. Rodriguez, I don't think you can play him. Projection-wise for us, he's popping a little bit. But he is just coming off of injury, only threw 65 pitches against Cleveland in 5 2/3 and gave up 3 runs there. So I don't think I have any interest in playing him. Charlie Morton has been really just volatile all season long. He gets the matchup last night, that was the Sale-Snell pitchers duel in San Francisco. I don't know that we see that necessarily again to that extent. Morton's okay, but again, he's been hit or miss. Last start was the Milwaukee game that they lit up Atlanta for 16. 8 of those were off of Morton. Just didn't have his stuff there. Same thing 3 starts ago against the Mets, where he also pumped you for -5 almost, giving up 7 runs, 5 of those earned, not really any strikeouts. He was okay in a good matchup against Miami, okay against St. Louis, okay against Arizona, just nothing spectacular at all. I'm not really jumping to play Charlie Morton, and we're getting a theme here as we get to our next guy, which is Nestor Cortez. I don't really like any of these mid and up guys other than Michael King, but Nestor Cortez rates out really well for us in our model. His strikeout prop is, let me see what his over is lined at. He gets the White Sox matchup. That's the main thing, but I've really been picking on him from the other side with bats recently. It just looks like he's going to be blowing up, and he did against the Angels, gave up 6 earned. He's just not been good. Had a couple solid outings against Baltimore and Atlanta a while back, and Boston, but he has just not been good. Now, he does get a really good matchup again, and his strikeout stuff's been hit or miss too. He's a guy that you would kind of think about being a really good strikeout pitcher, but he's not been that. So I think he's going to be pretty popular at 84 just because of the matchup and the fact that the rest of the pitching options aren't very good. I don't really want to go there. I really want to dig and find a value play to pair with King tonight that might allow me to get a few more bats. Looks like his over is lined at, let's see, Nestor. He's still at 5.5, and it's -125 to the over. For example, Morton is -148 to the over at nearly the same price of 5.5, both at 5.5. So Morton projecting for more strikeouts than Nestor. I think, honestly, would lean Morton. If I'm picking one in that mid-range, it's going to be Morton, even though both have been really hit or miss. But, again, I don't love the idea of going to either. Dropping down to the next option, you got Cutter Crawford, Carson Fulmer. It looks like I've seen a few conflicting reports on the Minnesota starter, but it looks like it's going to be Zebby Matthews is who I am seeing. But Cutter Crawford's another guy that's been hit or miss. He's not been really good at all recently. He had that stretch run right before the All-Star break that he was really good. But after the All-Star break, he's came out and not been the same. His strikeout prop's only 4.5, and he is -150 to the over, but 4.5 isn't great. And he gets Texas, which is not a very enticing matchup. The matchup for Carson Fulmer is a little better, going up against Toronto, who's kind of been volatile in terms of bats, we'll call it. They have not been good over the last week. Over the last month, they've been all right, but over the last week, they've started to trend down. Fulmer isn't having very many big strikeout outings at all. But he's not giving up tons of runs either. So I think he could be in the pool. But I don't think he's one of the first guys I'm looking at. Dropping on down, you've got Paul Blackburn. The two that stood out to me upon first glance were Paul Blackburn and Kyle Harrison at 75 and 7,400. Blackburn moves over to the Mets, and now he gets his former team in Oakland, who has started to trend down a little bit. in terms of how hot they were just recently coming out of, I think it was coming right out of the break. They were just uber hot. Over the last week, they have really cooled off in terms of their bats. So I think Blackburn's in play. He's been good his last couple outings against the Angels in Colorado, both on the road. Both were good matchups. He only gave up 2 combined runs, had 12 Ks combined in those 2, putting up right around 20. So I really like Paul Blackburn. I've also not looked at ownership at all. I like to run through these things just kind of first glance and get an idea. Zebby, I was going to go back to him. I don't know a whole lot about him, DOB, but I'm going to go back and take a look. So Harrison was the other guy that stood out on first glance. He's been decent. He had a big 11K outing against Colorado. Everybody seems to be good against Colorado. Washington and Cincy, the last couple, he wasn't very good. He gave up 6 to Cincy on the road and gave up a couple to Washington. Just no Ks there. So he's just kind of been solid. But Atlanta has not been good at all. I mean, they're striking out a ton over the last month. This lineup is just not what it was at one time with all the injuries that they're battling. So I definitely, could see playing the Harrison Morton deal like we did last night, playing Snell and Sale, but I don't think I'll play both, but I do lean Harrison of that bunch. Backing into Zebby, coming up from AAA, I don't know a whole lot about him. I want to see, and maybe DOB has some info about maybe his AAA numbers. Is he a big K guy? I don't have that in front of me, so maybe we can get some more info there. But Kansas City, in terms of matchup, is not striking out a whole lot at all. So that would be a worry for me recently. And they've been hitting it really well. So like you said, tough matchup for him. Unless there's something that I'm missing there, he would be towards the back end. But that's what I'm looking at in terms of these value options. I lean currently towards a King Blackburn pairing, taking that value. Morton and Cortez would be differing options in the mid-range for me. If I was going there, and the only reason Cortez is even in the pool is because of the matchup. So I'm leaning there, but King is definitely SP1. Let's get into the bats so we can knock that out and then head over on to SaberSim. New York has the highest implied total. Let me sort this out here. New York has the highest implied total on the slate today. Boston is next, and they get Urania in Texas. I really have liked them against righties, so I'll be interested. I don't think their lineup's out. It is out. So I guess Duran is still suspended. Hamilton, Yoshida, Refsnyder, Devers looks like pretty much the same as last night, unless I'm missing something. So you could definitely go to them. I do like them. New York is going to be popular. They get Cannon and the White Sox horrific bullpen. Let me pull up some of our. Let me just look kind of over the last month or so. Relief pitcher. Yeah, Chicago still has pretty much the worst bullpen in the league since the start of July. LA, Toronto, Colorado, Kansas City round out that list of top 5 worst since July 1. So Texas, Urania is just, he's not. The downside would be that he keeps the ball on the ground for Boston matchup here. Arizona gets Gomber and then this bad Colorado bullpen. Toronto goes up against Fulmer and gets to go against a bad bullpen behind him. LA on the other side there, who I don't really like. But they get Gosman. If they could get to him, there's a bad bullpen. So that's just some of the bullpen matchups there that we're looking at. San Diego gets Luis Ortiz to start here for Pittsburgh. They are not striking out hardly at all, and they're hitting it a little better over the last week. Arizona, we already talked about them briefly, but Arizona has been hitting it really well. They were popular last night. The Mets get Oakland and Boyle. They have been really cold. So that probably is just something I'm going to stay away from. Boyle 9K is quite the price tag there. Looking at so the rest of the bats, I want to see what pops. This was something that we did yesterday. There were some interesting leverage spots, and I'll go ahead and switch over to SaberSim. Some of the things that we look at, K percentage, 30% K rate for Zebby. Yeah, I don't know that I can try him out here in this first start against a team that's not striking out a lot. But hey, pitching is not good, so I guess you could do it. This is something that we did yesterday with SaberSim. I kind of like to run, and I'll go through it again. I like to run a base run, see what's coming out, and then I'll go back and start tweaking some things on my end to some biases. Now that I've went through the slate, I kind of got a general feel for what I like and dislike. This was something that I also mentioned. I usually get rid of I'll leave the 4-4s for now, but they're kind of teetering on the line for me. I almost always play 5-3 stacks. 5-2-1s are okay as well. Actually, I'm just going to keep it with those two. I like to get teams right. I like to get 2 teams right as opposed to a lot of players. I said this yesterday. If there's a day, and there will be days that mini stacks are going to pop, if those days, I'm just going to lose as far as being out on the top. Because I like to go 5-3 quite a bit. And baseball makes building easier for one thing, and you don't have to get as much correct. So as far as settings, I'm going to run this like I'm building for the 111 tonight. So on 1,000 to 10,000 entrants, and I do not have the contest sims for that SaberSim offers. I only have the base version that runs 1,500 teams. It still has and I'll show you what I sort it by, but I sort it by their Saber score, which still runs simulations, just not directly against the contest. Something you're going to notice if you haven't run a whole lot of simulations, and really for any sport, but a lot for baseball, you're going to see some teams pop up, and you're going to be like, why are they popping up? And then as we dig into them more, simulations in baseball especially like to take leverage, and that's what I want. You want leverage in these GPPs. So let's run a base run and see what we're getting. I'm afraid we're going to get too much Nestor. I'm going to run just the base one just to see what we get, but I'm going to probably end up going back and bumping Blackburn if I don't get a whole lot, probably bumping down Eduardo. Am I missing something, DOB or anybody in the chat, on Eduardo Rodriguez pitch count? If he's got a longer leash, you could keep him in play, but if he's still working his way back, and I'm searching Twitter here too. Let's see here. But if he's going to pitch like he did, or as many as he did his first start, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. So he's projecting in a lot of places pretty high, too high for me. All right, let's see what we got here. So in terms of pitching, we didn't get much Michael King compared to what I would have thought. And now I have it going by, let me make it go give us the top 150 teams. I'll also zoom that into the top 20 teams here in a minute, but we're sorted by Saber score. I like that metric. It does go generally towards the contest, but maybe not as in-depth as the full-on contest sims does. So we have it sorted by that. So the top 150 teams, we have the most in terms of pitching of Charlie Morton popped a lot. And then Gosman was actually right behind him. Michael King, Nestor, Eduardo, Blackburn, Harrison. Did get 2 Zebby for you there. If you zoom in to the top 20 teams, we have still a lot of Morton and Gosman, a little Nestor, some King, very little Blackburn. So there's kind of where we're popping for pitchers. In terms of bats, if I come over to teams, 5-man stacks, we got a ton of Texas. So here we go again. Tons of Texas, just like last night. Okay, here we go. So they get, let's see here. They get Cutter, who, like I said, he hadn't been very good since the All-Star break. So let's see. What is he looking at in terms, or what are they looking at in terms of ownership? They're going to be a little down the board tonight. Right. Yeah. Number 6 on the board, or no, sorry, let me sort by the main. They're not as low as I would have thought. They are 4th on the board in terms of ownership, in terms of stacking with our partners over at Ship It. Let's see here. After that, we got some 5-man Toronto stuff. They're kind of right in the same range in terms of ownership. Some New York, of course, LA, Dodgers, Kansas City, we got a couple there. Mini stacks, we got some Toronto, New York, and then New York. So that was kind of what I was talking about. New York is probably in the best spot of the slate. Highest implied run total, 6.3 by SaberSim over here against the White Sox. They still want exposure to them, so they think they're solid plays, but they don't want the full stack quite as much. So that is just a way that the simulations are helping you get different. If you zoom into the top 20 teams, still getting some Texas collar or Texas, Toronto, and then same deal. You're getting mini stack New York. Yeah, let's go back. We're going to go back over to the pitching, and we're going to bump. I'm just going to take out my entire pool here. I don't want Gosman personally. I will probably need to look into it a little more, but King, Nestor, Blackburn, Harrison. And within that, I'm going to bump up Blackburn closer to 15. I'm going to bump down Nestor to 15.5. I'll leave Morton where he is. And I'm also going to bump up Michael King a little bit too. And I'll round him off to 13. So I'll just adjust those a little bit. Not going to do anything with the bats yet. But we're going to just rebuild those 150 teams. Let that run there. With those 5 pitchers only. So we're not going to get any of anybody else. And I just kind of basically just made the projections tailored a little more to how I would rank them. And I'm not giving min-maxes. I'm letting the projections build for me. And what I've gotten into trouble with before is I always used to do the min-max stuff. And when I would do that, from what I can tell, I'm kind of Xing out good lineups in some cases just to meet certain min-max exposures. So if I'm going to do a min-max exposure, I'm going to let all the 1,500 teams build first. And then if I have too much of somebody, like I'll show you an example here in a minute, then I will go in and maybe cap them out at something and adjust within those 1,500 teams. So at the top of pricing, that gave us a lot more Michael King, a lot more Paul Blackburn. It lowered us on Morton a little bit, but we got to have some exposure to the few pitchers that we gave it. And this is across the top 20 teams. It gave us one Harrison and a little Nestor. So I would like that. If Locke was in 20 minutes, I would love that pitching exposure right there. Let's zoom that out to the top if I was running 20 teams, which I don't think I am tonight. King and Blackburn neck and neck, same deal. Morton and then Nestor and Harrison there together. If you look in terms of bats, I'm sure we probably got something similar to what we had before. And we still got a lot of Texas, Toronto. We got a little more New York here. I don't know if that's just because we threw more value pitching in the mix, probably. And then mini stacks, we got Toronto, New York. So it's looking to me like, and we'll zoom into some of these teams and look at them and see, all right, what are the teams specifically looking like? They are looking, it's looking like I'm probably going to want to have some form of New York stack Yankees in my lineup. I don't know if that'll be a mini stack or a full-on 5-man Yankees, but they're popping quite a bit, even though they're the most popular. Just a really, really good spot, and there's other ways that you can get different. In terms of ownership on these pitchers, let's see, because Blackburn's not looking all that owned right now. It looks like it is going to go more to Nestor and Charlie Morton. So let's look at some of these teams. So within the top 150, the top team by Saber score is a Morton Blackburn, and then it's got a 5-man Texas with a 3-man Yankees. So I don't know that we actually have lineups for any of these. So that's another thing. You're not going to want to exactly have these teams fully just locked in and know that this is the only way I'm going to go until these lineups come out. Because we could get some slight changes. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But as of now, we have that team, which is solid with Blackburn, Morton, and then it has Wells, Verdugo, Stanton, Lowe, Simeon, Smith, Seager, Adalis. The next team is a King Morton. So paying, as far as our pool of pitchers, is paying up a little bit. Wells and Verdugo mini stack 2-man, one off Toro for Oakland, and then a 5-man Texas. Let's look at some of these other. I want to see what some of these 5-man Yankees stacks are looking like. So I sorted it to only show those, and the top one is a Blackburn Morton, Wells, Torres, Verdugo, Stanton, Judge with, 2-man Texas, Lowe and Seager, and then the Sosa one-off for Chicago. The next one, Blackburn, Morton, Wells, another one-off Chicago. We're getting some mini Chicago stacks. I don't know if I'll end up doing that per se. I don't know that I've played any all year, but hey, I did say earlier I have picked on Nestor a little bit with some bats, and again, that's what the simulations are going to do for you. They're going to give you leverage. A mini stack against a popular Nestor Cortez who hasn't been very good. Maybe you luck into the Baldwin Vargas mini stack there. So I do think that's interesting. It's something to look for. I would never full stack them, but I wouldn't hate a mini. It's a way to get different. There's a King Morton with 3 cheap, probably. Let me double check. 3 cheap, no, Vaughn, and then 2 cheap White Sox bats with Stanton, Soto, Verdugo, Torres, Wells. So, yeah, so this is another thing that I'll do. If I have a stack in mind, that I really want to play, I'll just sort it by 5-mans for New York. And maybe I don't do that. Maybe I come back to the pitchers, and it's like a night that I know exactly the 2 pitchers I want to play. Like I said earlier, I am zeroing in on a King Blackburn team probably for my one lineup in the 111 tonight. And if I play both of them, what are the best teams that it's going to give me? And then from there, I can kind of just play around with it. If there's a certain batter that I want to lock in, I can do that. I can show teams that only have those guys in them. So if I look at the 5-mans and zoom in on the Yankees, so here is there's 12 teams out of the 1,500 that it generated that are Blackburn King 5-man Yankees. And those, let's see, one has a 2-man with a White Sox with a 1-off JD Martinez, 1-off Freddie Freeman with a 2-man White Sox. This one is a 1-off Royce Lewis with a 2-man Arizona. I don't hate that one. That one looks pretty good. There would be a 1-off Pete Alonso with 2 Toronto bats. Same thing there. 2-man Giants against Morton. Again, that's kind of going against that mid-range chalk option. So there's kind of where I'm at on the slate. Again, I want to keep these shows right around 30 minutes. Good luck to everybody today. There'll be, again, lineups will be coming out, and we'll be updating them in the chat or on the sheet. And then also we'll have a core up closer to lock in the Discord. So be sure to hop in there. The description of the video has links to our site to try us out. We have 11 sports overall that we provide content for. Of course, all those are not in season, but we do have a lot of them coming back here soon. We got EPL starting this weekend. That sheet will be out. Last I checked earlier, pricing wasn't out, even though the slate's up. But those for all weekend starts Friday with the EPL showdown. We'll have that all season. We've got football packages up if you guys like that. But I would recommend the all sports, $25 a month. Can't beat this kind of value anywhere else in the industry with the amount of content that we're pumping out there. We've got tennis. We've got we had that this morning. We've got, like I said, soccer. We've got college football coming back. We got golf, the FedEx Cup playoffs, NASCAR, all 3 series. NHL will be back later in the fall. College basketball will be back in the fall. NBA, anything pretty much that you could want. UFC, anything you would want, we probably got it over here. So be sure to check us out there. And again, the Ship It Nation partnership, the links with code Jager15 are also in the description of the video. So good luck to everybody tonight. Let's turn on some more green screens, and we'll see you next time.